Hello, everybody. My name is Magdalena Wrobel, and I'm Associate Director of Public History at Lübeck Institute, New York, Berlin. The Institute is the biggest depository of archives donated by German-speaking Jewish emigres who came to the United States before or after World War II. Today, November 9th, marks the 84th anniversary of the Kristallnacht. On and around 9 and 10th November 1938, simultaneously in hundreds of towns across Germany and Austria, thousands of Jews were persecuted, beaten, and arrested. During the next 2 days, many individuals were attacked and Jewish properties were destroyed. As a result of the Kristallnacht, also known as the November pogroms, over 1,200 synagogues and about 7,000 Jewish shops and businesses were looted and destroyed. At least 91 Jews were killed. This number does not include people who committed suicide after that, and those who died after being sent to concentration camps. An unknown number of people was beaten and raped. About 30,000 Jewish men were arrested and sent to concentration camps. The financial cost of the November pogroms was approximately 400 million US dollars, what is the equivalent of more than 6.8 billion US dollars today. The emotional trauma of the targeted group can never be estimated. And the November pogrom is often viewed as the beginning of the Holocaust. And today we have a special guest talking about a topic related to the Kristallnacht. Dr. Marc Grellert from Technical University, Darmstadt. He teaches digital design at the TU Darmstadt and is a co-founder of the company called Architectura Virtualis. His work and research focuses on virtual reconstructions and simulations of architecture, knowledge transfer with the help of digital media, and the development and realization of installations and presentations for exhibitions. Dr. Grellert has led numerous national and international research projects in the context of reconstruction, simulation, and visualization of historical buildings and urban facilities. And the list is very long and very impressive, and includes the Vatican Palace at the time of the High Renaissance, the Berlin Palace, the Moscow Kremlin, the imperial tombs of Xi'an, China, synagogues in Germany, the construction and design history of St. Peter's Cathedral, the Khmer temples in Cambodia, Ephesus in Turkey, the Dresden Residence Palace, the London Crystal Palace of 1851, and the virtual construction history of the Florentine Cathedral. And today, Dr. Grellert will discuss his decades of work creating virtual reconstructions of synagogues destroyed during the Nazi period. This work began after the 1994 firebombing of a Lübeck synagogue, the first racist attack on a Jewish house of worship in Germany since 1945. Today, more than 25 destroyed synagogues have been recreated by Dr. Grellert and his team virtually. And I would also like to mention that after the presentation, Dr. Grellert will answer your questions. So if you have any question, please add them to the Q&A box. And now, please welcome Dr. Grellert.
And so thank you very much for this nice introduction and the possibility to speak about this project, Synagogues in Germany, a virtual reconstruction. So maybe first I give you a small overview what we are doing in Darmstadt. So Magdalena already mentioned some projects. So you see here the Vatican Palace at the High Renaissance, or the castle in Neustrelitz, even the Berlin Castle. Maybe it would be better it still would be virtually, but it's now real in Germany. Or the Dresden Castle, different time steps here, or the interior of this castle, Chinese tombs, or the Temple of the Khmer in Cambodia, or the history of St. Peter in Rome, and the history of the Cathedral of Florence. This is the view before Brunelleschi built his famous cupola. Or churches in Germany, like the reconstruction of the Paderborn Cathedral in the Baroque times. And currently we are working on the Roman period of the city of Cologne. Here's some interior buildings. And what we are also doing, we are doing rapid prototyping. So we are printing our virtual models. Here's some examples, city models. And then we are doing animated maps. So if you have an event, an historical event, which has an extension in time and space, then we do these animated maps where you can far better comprehensive how these events were taken. So this is of the migration of the people. Just some examples. And then we do different kinds of exhibits with digital media. So also in the context of culture of remembrance, here's some installation for a World War I museum in France or in Belgium, or for the concentration camp, the museum at the concentration camp of Flossenbürg in Germany, in Bavaria. Or we're doing also installation for Jewish museums, like installations, how did the Jews come to Germany? So these are for the Jewish Museum in Berlin, the new permanent collection, or about Jews in the Middle Ages in Germany, or about the Jewish community in Berlin. And one of our main projects is the virtual reconstructions of synagogues in Germany. So let's start with our understanding of architecture. For us, architecture always reflects society. And the social situation of the minorities expresses itself in public space with its presence. And the exterior of the synagogues tells the story of the social situation of just as the synagogues were to disappear from the cityscapes, so were the Jews to disappear from the German society. So for us, synagogues are architectural seismographs for the prevailing social conditions. Yeah, the background of the project is, on the one hand, the arson attack by 4 neo-Nazis on the Lübeck synagogue 1994. But before, there was on my side years of intensive study of the Nazi regime. For example, I organize lectures with Auschwitz survivors. There was the interest in architecture and the interest in new media. So all this came together to this project. And the goals were to show the cultural loss, but also to set a signal against racism, anti-Semitism, and to make a contribution to the remembrance of the Shoah using new media. And of course, it was also remembering the circumstances. The 9th and 10th of November, so more than I think the newest figures are more than 2,000 Jews were murdered in these days. 7,500 stores were plundered. Yeah, we had this already. 30,000 Jewish men deported to the concentration camp. And there were about 2,800 to 3,000 synagogues in Germany, and more than, I guess, 1,400 were destroyed in these days. So the objective was also to show the historical architectural importance of the synagogues in Germany, and to make aware that the synagogues were part of a shared culture of Jews and Gentiles in Germany. And the goal was also to give an overview about the 19th and 20th century synagogues in Germany. So, and of course, the goal is to publish the results, and there we combine the computer simulation with background information about architecture, about history, Jewish culture, and if it's possible, we also include testimonies, interviews with eyewitnesses. And we hope that this project is an incentive, particularly for the younger German generation, to reflect about the German history. So let's look to the process of reconstruction. So there are 4 main steps: the selection of the synagogues, searching and preparation of source materials, creating the virtual model, and of course publishing the results. We selected synagogues by architectural selective criteria. We selected a large city with the expectation that there is a greater public awareness. We selected synagogues by different kinds of styles, Orthodox and liberal synagogues, and we selected the synagogues from the 19th and 20th century. And why we selected this synagogue, I will talk briefly about the history of German synagogues. So the first synagogues dated back to the Middle Ages, and Germany was one of the center of Jewish life in Europe at this time. And pogroms in the Middle Ages led to an expulsion of Jews of almost all German cities. But, and this was very specially for Germany, they could go to the countryside and founded about 1,600 Jewish communities. So this is very special for Germany. And then you have synagogues, small synagogues from this time. And in the time of Enlightenment, Jews were allowed to come back to the cities. So the first synagogue in the 18th century in Ansbach shows this kind of synagogues. And with the synagogue of Karlsruhe, there was a first synagogue in 1798 in an inner city location. So in this time, there was the beginning of a status of equality for the Jews. There was the migration to the city, there was the growth of the population in general, of the Jewish population, and there was a need for bigger places of worship. And the social status now made it possible also to erect prestige buildings. And by building this synagogues, the architectural style reflected the status and the way the community saw itself. So we have 3 different groups of synagogue from looking on the style. So the Neo-Islamic synagogues, German Romanesque synagogues, or synagogues following contemporary or regional style. So for example, for the Neo-Islamic synagogues, you see Nuremberg, and all these synagogues, there was an emphasis on the independence of the Jewish community. It was a site where art historians discovered in Andalusia these old palaces with these Islamic style, and brought it back to all over Germany. So the architects choosing the style because of the Oriental origin of the Jewish religion, but this was non-Jewish architects. Another example, the synagogue of Kaiserslautern. And then there were synagogues with the German Romanesque style. So there was an emphasis of the affiliation with the German nation, for example, Munich. And there was also now, since 1850, Jews were allowed to become an architect. And Edwin Obler, he built this building in Hanover, said that the German Jews has to build synagogues in the German style. And then we have synagogues following contemporary styles like a neoclassical synagogue in Berlin or the famous Bauhaus synagogue in Plauen. And after the Nazis came to power, there was already in 1933 first destruction. And before Kristallnacht, there was almost 50 synagogues destroyed. And also the 4 of the biggest synagogues in Germany in summer or autumn 1938. So months, weeks before the 9th and 10th of November. So they were planned to destroy it and turned down by order of the Nazis, like the synagogue in Dortmund, the synagogue of Nuremberg, Kaiserslautern, or Munich. So we can say that from these 3,000 synagogues, more than 1,500 synagogues and prayer rooms were destroyed. And after 1945, there were about 1,200 buildings left, totally or partly, but only a few buildings were still used as synagogues. Here, the example in Frankfurt and Bad Nauheim. And in many places, you find situations like this. On the left-hand side, you see the synagogue in Gentin, and then the same building, but just rebuilt it as a residential building. So there are about today 200 buildings where you can see from the outside that this was an important building, and about 100 buildings, there is the interior partly or completely left. But in the larger city, there is almost nothing left. So the question was, what remembers on the synagogues? And we think that virtual synagogues offer new possibilities. So coming to the next point, starting the reconstruction by searching in preparation source materials. So there are blueprints, you have original photographs, you have descriptions, contemporary drawings, similar buildings, or in this case, very often statements from eyewitnesses. So taking the Mannheim synagogue as an example, we have contemporary, here you see a contemporary drawing. This is a picture from 1955. So this is how this synagogue, it was a ruin, but it still looked famous from the outside. And they turned down this 1955 and built a very primitive residential building there. See the inside photograph. Again, a picture of the ruin. There were architectural drawings, eyewitnesses. And now I come to explain how we create the virtual models. So we start with these architectural plans, then we have these computer drawings. We put them in a 3-dimensional space and build the different elements. And a lot of details. Torah shrine, pulpit, candlesticks, chairs, furniture. And now I'm going a little bit more in detail to explain how to create these virtual buildings. So there is always a lot of work by hand drawing in the computer. So you're drawing 2-dimensional sketches, and then they become then a 3-dimensional. So we combine lines and 2-dimensional drawings like this. So this is really a lot of work. Nothing is done automatically. So a lot of computer drawing to get an elements like this. At the end, if you have two of them, you just can copy and paste. So that's nice. So the next step is creating the surfaces. So we're taking an arcade as an example, we adjust them, and then we draw the ornaments again by hand in the computer. We color them, and then we project these drawings on the geometry. And then you can see the interior room with all these ornaments. This is just some examples of the texture library. And next step is light. And what is very nice, you can have the sun, and the sun goes through the windows into the virtual building. So if the sun stands high, maybe it's the light like this, or you can obtain an atmosphere like this, just changing the sun. So next step is producing images, moving pictures. So we define a path where virtual camera follow this path and take images. And if you want to have 1 minute animation, you need about 1,800 images that you have a fluid impression. So there are different results. I will start with the computer still images. Here we see the synagogue of Dortmund from the outside. From the inside, the synagogue of Plauen. For me, one of the most interesting buildings. And I met an eyewitnesses, and he were at 1930 could visiting the construction of the synagogue and give us very helpful advices to the colors. The synagogue in Darmstadt, synagogue of Munich, also this neo-Romanesque style, same to Hanover, the synagogue of Nuremberg, Bad Kissingen in Bavaria, or a Neo-Islamic synagogue in Kaiserslautern. Again, neo-Romanesque synagogue, in this case Paderborn, in Western Germany. And a very interesting example, a smaller synagogue in Langen, in Hescher. And all the years we had only photographs from the outside and just a very small photograph from the inside. But we know the painter of the synagogue, it was Max Lazarus. Then there was an exhibition, and the curator of the exhibition traveled to New York and looked at the estate and found colored sketches and a non-known photograph of the interior. And only one of these sketches fits to this photograph, so we know very exactly the colors and could bring this in the virtual reconstruction. And here the synagogue of Mannheim, again from the outside as a virtual reconstruction and from the inside. the Synagogue of Cologne. There we had also a contemporary color drawing, so we knew very exactly the colors. The Synagogue of Leipzig. The synagogue in Berlin, Fassadenstraße, one of the biggest synagogues in Germany. And here you see the first synagogue which we have reconstructed in Frankfurt. So this was how we could do this in the late 90s. And this, the same synagogue with modern technologies. And we have also some research project about medieval synagogues. For example, the medieval quarter and the synagogue of Cologne, and some impressions from this virtual reconstructions. The building above the mikveh, the Jewish quarter, and all these little details came from real details from the medieval time. Or the synagogue of Speyer from 1204 and the virtual reconstruction. So maybe this gives me the possibility to talk about the potentials of virtual reconstruction. So these crossfades are very impressive. This is the situation of Bad Kissing today. This is how it would look like if the synagogue still stands. But this is reality. Or the synagogue in Mannheim again, the ruin and the reconstruction. And we were very glad that there was a great public awareness. So, for example, CNN and BBC came to Darmstadt and sent worldwide reports on TV. One of the biggest potential is the digitality, so that the synagogues are stored in the computer by zeros and ones. And it depends which interface you have that you get an output. So you see the virtual reconstruction of the design from Michelangelo to St. Peter as a virtual model and as a plaster printed rapid prototyping model. So we use this technology also for the synagogues. Here we see these printing machines. So the models came out overnight. And the virtual model of the synagogue in Kaiserslautern and the plastered model. And we are looking always for new materials. This is a project for the new permanent exhibition in the Jewish Museum in Berlin. And this is stainless steel and printed in stainless steel. So 4 synagogues, and you can see them there on a round table, and the visitors can turn them around and can see them from inside and outside. And next to this, there are 3 synagogues in virtual reality. So for us, there was about 5 years ago a turning point. So the hardware and software are nowadays that good and also that cheap that it's very easy to do virtual reconstruction with virtual reality. And there's no better way to show lost architecture. So the feeling of being present in a building. And of course, there are new forms of presentation. And we think this is generating curiosity even for younger people. And the Jewish Museum in Berlin asked us to do this for 3 synagogues because they want to let non-Jewish people visit a synagogue virtually, because almost no Jewish people have an idea how it looks like. And there was the idea that this could break down barriers. And of course, we are also using augmented reality, these little interfaces, the inside of the synagogue of Frankfurt Höchst. But we are also looking for analog forms of presentation. So with these binoculars, you may think, what can I see here? But if you look through, you see exactly the perspective as it would be if the synagogue of Frankfurt Höchst still were there, from the outside and the inside. And part of my research work was also a synagogue internet archive, which I did about 15 years. And I collect information in the literature about synagogues. And there were about 2,300 synagogues you could found in this archive. You get information, basic information, the literature which was used. You could call up images. There was also extended use. There was the possibility to add images by visitors themselves, by the internet user. So at the end, there was about 50,000 external contribution. So that was before Wikipedia, and it was the question, could this work that the internet is a part of the culture of remembrance? For example, here 2 images about the burning synagogue in Darmstadt, and nobody knows them before, and then they came to this archive. And what was also new was the possibility, because I got the database, to get statistics. So about 70 synagogues which were destroyed before November 1938, and the number about more than 360 synagogues which were destroyed after World War II. And we had also the possibilities of exhibition. The first exhibition in the year 2000 in Bonn. Then this exhibition got a traveling version, which went to Tel Aviv in the Bet HaTzufot, went to Detroit, to Winnipeg, and Toronto. There are 4 main areas of this exhibition, and it was also the question: how can we exhibit something which is not longer exist and which is only virtually? So we decided to start with an area we called it perception, pathway to the Kristallnacht. You see there laws against the Jewish community from 1933 to 1938. Following then area escalation, where you can see images of the destruction and the names for more than 1,000 cities where synagogues were destroyed. And then the main part, reconstruction. And we decided to make the reconstruction process visible. So the work of the students on the one hand side as a workshop atmosphere, and on the other side, the final results. Here, this area of perception. Here you see this area of destruction, of escalation, and the reconstruction process, some impressions of the exhibition. And this exhibition, we could renew it, the traveling exhibition, in the festival year 1,700 years of Jewish life in Germany, and have now a new traveling exhibition. And there is also a permanent exhibition in Frankfurt on the site of a former synagogue. You see here the Nazi bunker, which they built on the site of the synagogue. And there is a new permanent exhibition about our virtual synagogues. some impression of this exhibition. Yeah, and also these virtual reconstruction were used, and they are used today for remembering the synagogues, and with large projection on the facade on the former locations. So today in four cities, this will happen. So maybe at the end, I will show you the film, and maybe Sophie, you can start the film here.
שנשרפו על קידוש השם בנערצים באושוויץ, דכאו, זקסנהאוזן, טרזיינשטאט, בוכנוואלד, ברגן-בלזן, מיידאנק, טרבלינקה. בעבור שאנחנו נודרים צדוקו בעד הסקורס נשמוסון.
Thank you very much, Mark. This was a wonderful presentation. This was also a very powerful reminder what happens when democracy is replaced by hate speech and dictatorship. We have actually a few questions. I would actually like to take the privilege and ask my question first. How long does it take to prepare one full reconstruction, and how has it changed over the years as the technology is developing?
So it depends how big is the synagogue or how many details the sources provide. So it could take maybe in a professional work maybe half a year, and with the students they work maybe 1.5 years on this. So it depends who does it, but it takes always a long time.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned the traveling exhibit, which is amazing. I would love to see it at some point. Is there any book published on these reconstructions and findings when reconstructing?
So there was a book, there was a catalog of the exhibition of the year 2004, and I am not sure. I think it's not anymore available, but there is maybe you find them somewhere. It's the name of the book is the same of the exhibition or the project, Synagogues in Germany, a virtual reconstruction. So you might find the book somewhere. But this is the quality of the year 2003. So there's no new book. So you find some of the images in our web page or in the exhibition in Frankfurt.
Okay, and everybody can see this this book here in the posted right now in the chat. And actually, there is also another question regarding the traveling exhibit. Will it be ever brought to the US? Is there such plan?
So it was already in the US. So so there are no actual plans. If there is an interest, someone could contact me. But the question, I think it's a lot of cost to bring it overseas. But okay, it would be possible. I think it would be needed that there is a bigger museum take care of this. So so it's possible. So if someone is interested and can organize this, would be welcome.
Mm-hmm. And also somebody from the audience asked a very specific question, but actually it's kind of interesting. So during the presentation, we saw many Hebrew letters and quotes on the synagogues. So how difficult was this for the reconstruction to actually insert those Hebrew letters and the words, which are of course very specific and very often intricate?
Yeah, the first time beginning we did this not very professional. It was more that we copied the letters as an image, but later on we asked experts to interpret the letters. So, and then used correct fonts. So at the end, experts make these letters, I think, pretty true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there is of course also a question in the statement that for such project that the work can be never finished. So what are the plans for the future regarding this project?
So there will come a next little project about synagogues in the Rhine-Main area, including 13 synagogues from Mainz, from Darmstadt and Frankfurt. So this is the plan for the next year, to have a local focus on these synagogues. But even Frankfurt, with the 8 synagogues, Frankfurt was a very important Jewish community. It was the second largest in Germany. So these are the plans for the next years. And okay, so we cannot do all the synagogues. So it's just we do the synagogues which we find interesting. We do some synagogues where people asked us if, and also it gave them some money to do this. And so the project will continue for the next years, and yeah, then we will see.
Thank you very much for the presentation once again. And as we answered most of the question, I would like to thank you everybody for the attendance today. And Marc, thank you once again for presenting and showing us the reconstruction.
Yeah, thank you for presenting our project.
Please like this video and subscribe for more content from the Leo Baeck Institute.